Good morning. This is an algebra video for help on homework 1 for West Coast University students. I am planning to make 8 such videos because you have 8 weeks and 8 assignments, one video for each assignment. So let's jump into the first one. Here's the first question. Got minus 11 plus minus 6. So you have to add two negative numbers. So you add two negative numbers. So what you do first is you take the absolute values of the two numbers, which means you discard the sign. So you have 11 and 6. So take the absolute values, add them, which will give you 17, of course. And then insert the sign. The sign is negative. So you get negative 17. That's number 1. Number 2. So here you have negative 7 by 3 plus 3 by 8. So as you can see, the denominators are different. And if we could make the denominators the same, we could simply add the numerators. That means you have to take the lowest common multiple. In this case, the lowest common multiple is 3 times 8, 24. So the first step is finding the lowest common multiple, which is 24. Once you find the lowest common multiple, you got to look at, all right, this is 3. That means it has to be multiplied by 8 to get 24. So you do the same with the numerator. Multiply negative 7 with 8. But when you come to the next number, you have 8 as the denominator. That means you got to multiply it with 3 to get 24. So you multiply the numerator also with 3. Hope that makes sense. So we're trying to make the denominator 24. So you multiply that with 3. So now you have the denominators both are 24. So then find out the product here. Negative 7 times positive 8. So remember, when you multiply a negative with a positive, you get a negative. So that will be negative 56. And then on the right side, you will have 9, because it's 3 times 3 is 9. So now the denominators are the same, so we can just add the numerators, which is negative 56 plus 9, and that is going to give 47, negative 47. So here is the third question. You have negative 2.1 plus 0.22. So we are adding a negative number with a positive number. In this case, what you got to do is simply take the difference between them. Take the difference between the absolute values. And then once you find the difference, give the sign of the higher number or the greater number. So whenever you add a negative with a positive, you find the difference of their absolute values, which we get as 1.88. And then we look at these numbers. This is greater and its sign is negative. So insert the sign of the greater number, which is negative. So the answer is going to be negative 1.88. That's how we do that. Here is the fourth question. You have minus 10.75 minus of minus 2.16. So that's different. So you have the difference between two negative numbers. Okay? And in this case, what you do is look at that negative. A negative multiplied with a negative becomes a positive. So that negative there, two negatives make it a positive. Very important. The product of two negatives is a positive. So that's why this number became positive. And then as we did before, you're adding a negative number with a positive number. Therefore, what do? We take the difference between their absolute values and then insert the sign of the bigger number. So the bigger number is this one. So we're going to have the final sign as negative. So the difference of their absolute values is 10.75 minus 2.16, which gives 8.59, right? That's the difference of their absolute values. And now insert the sign of the greater number, which is negative. So the final answer is going to be negative 8.59. That's how we do that. Number 5. So now we have 7 by 10 minus 2 by 3. 7 by 10 minus 2 by 3. So a negative times negative makes it a positive. So that's the first thing. Change the sign to positive. And next we will take the LCM of 10 and 3. The LCM of 10 and 3 is 30. So let's proceed. So first you have 7 by 10, and that becomes positive because a negative multiplied with a negative is a positive. Then we take the LCM of 10 and 3, which is 30. And so this will have to be multiplied with 3 to make it 30. So we'll do multiply the 7 with 3. And this will be multiplied with 10 to make it 30. So this will also be multiplied by 10. Okay, let's do that. So you have 7 times 3 by 10 times 3 plus 2 times 10 by 3 times 10. Because we're trying to make the denominators the same. Because once we make the denominators the same, you can add the numerators. Now take the product of 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 2 times 10 is 20. So now the denominators are the same. So you just add 21 plus 20 by 30, which is 41 by 30. And then that cannot be simplified anymore. So that's the final answer. Brings us to number 6. In 6, we have 3 minus 4 plus 8. Well, here you have once again a negative times a negative that's going to become a positive. So we have 3 plus 4 plus 8, which is quite simple. That's 15. That's easy. So all you had to remember was negative times negative is a positive. That's all. Brings us to number 7. That's negative 3 plus negative 4 minus 5 minus 3. Okay. So here, what you got to do first is, you see what's inside the parenthesis. 5 minus 3 becomes 2. And then plus times minus is minus. All right, so 2 things. Plus times minus is minus. And then 5 minus 3 is what? 2. And then there is a negative outside. So that's a negative. And then, so you have 3 negative numbers. What do? Just add all the absolute values, which will give 3, 4, and 2, which will give you 9, and then put the negative sign. So that's negative 9. All right. Hope you're progressing well. So 8th question. This one is negative 2 by 25 minus 5 by 3 plus 1 by 15. So again, look at the numbers inside the parenthesis. It's negative 2 by 25 minus 5 by 3. So take the LCM. The LCM is 25 times 3, which is 75, right there. And that means 25 has to be multiplied by 3. So you multiply 2 also with 3. 3 has to be multiplied with 25, so we'll multiply 5 with 25. Now that's about the third time we're doing it. We're trying to make the denominators equal by taking the LCM. So there you have minus 2 times 3, and then 25 times 3 minus 5 times 25 by 3 times 25. So that's plus 1 by 15. So there you have minus 2 times 3 gives minus 6. And minus 5 times 25 gives minus 125. The denominators are equal, plus 1 by 15. So you have the parenthesis there, which I had forgotten to put. So let's try to solve what's inside the parenthesis first. And the denominators are the same. So we can just find this, which is negative 6 minus 125. So what is that? That's negative 131. Okay. Plus 1 by 15. So minus 6 minus 125 is minus 131. And then you have plus 1 by 15. So now we got to find the LCM of 75 and 15. All right. 75 and 15. Common factor 15, so you have 5 and 1, so the LCM is 15 times 5, which is 75. Therefore, the first number stays as it is, but for the second number, you got to multiply it with 5, so we'll multiply this also with 5. So minus 131 by 75 plus 5 by 75. Now, of course, the denominators are equal. So look at the numerators. One is negative, the other is positive. What do? Take the difference of their absolute values and insert the sign of the greater one, which is negative. So you're going to get negative 126 by 75. Can this be simplified? No, but you can write that as a decimal. It's negative 1.68. Because the question says either give a simplified fraction or give the decimal. So negative 1.68 is the answer. Here's the ninth question. Negative 17 times negative 6. Oh, that's all. Negative 17 times negative 6. Okay. So that is negative 17 times negative 6. Which is 102, positive 102. So whenever you have parentheses like this, that has to be taken as a product. So be careful there. It's not negative 17 minus 6. It's negative 17 times negative 6. How do we know that? Because of the parentheses. That's why you have that, and then negative multiplied with a negative is a positive. Number 10. 2 by 7 times negative 35. That's all. 2 by 7 multiplied with negative 35. Well, of course, in this case, 2 times negative 35 is going to be negative 70 divided by 7. Okay, so negative 70 divided by 7 is negative 10. Because a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So a negative multiplied with a positive or a negative divided by a positive is always a negative. Number 11. Negative 45 by 8 minus 24 by 9. So that's a product again. So we have to multiply these two numbers. Both are negatives. So when you multiply, you're going to get a positive. So in this case, what you got to do is you got to multiply the numerator with the numerator and the denominator with the denominator. So that's going to give 45 times 24 divided by 8 times 9. And that's 1080 in the numerator by 72, which gives 15. And remember that negative times negative is again a positive, so I've not included the sign because it's a positive. All right? Number 12. minus 35 by minus 5. So here you're dividing a negative by a negative. So remember, a negative multiplied by a negative or a negative divided by a negative both give positive. So it's simply 35 by 5, which is 7, positive 7. Yeah, negative divided by negative is a positive. Number 13, 0 divided by minus 10. 0 divided by any number is 0. Okay, 0 divided by any number is a 0. Therefore, the answer is 0. But also remember that if any number is divided by 0, it's undefined. So if 0 is in the numerator, you get 0. But if 0 is in the denominator, like you're trying to divide any number by 0, then that cannot be done. It's undefined. So see the difference. 14, so 4 by 0, that's undefined. Brings us to 15. 6 by 7 divided by minus 54 by 5. So when you have two fractions like this divided by each other, we have to turn that into a multiplication. So let me show you how that's done. So 6 by 7, that's a symbol for division, divided by negative 54 by 5, right? And then what you do is, to turn this into multiplication, you got to reverse this. That means instead of negative 54 by 5, it'll become 5 by negative 54. So reverse the second number and turn it into a multiplication. Okay? And then, as usual, multiply 6 times 5, 30, and then multiply 7 times negative 54. So you've got 30 there, and then negative 378, and then divide or simplify. It becomes negative 5 by 63, because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So that's negative 5 by 63. Number 16, we have minus 600 by minus 0.06. That's it. So here, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And then you have a decimal in the denominator. Got to be careful. So that's negative 600 divided by negative 0.06, which is in effect negative 600 times 1 by negative 0.06. Actually, you can put this into the calculator straight away and you would get the answer as 10,000, positive 10,000. 17. So 17, you have minus 5.9 times 1.5 times 3.4. So you have three numbers multiplied. One is a negative. And so the final answer is going to be a negative. Why? Because negative times a positive will give a negative. And then that times a positive will give a negative. So all we got to do is multiply these three numbers and put a negative. So you would get negative 30.09. 18. All right, so minus 13.58 plus 8.35 plus 74.83 minus 15.379. All right, so you have two negative numbers and two positive. So the easiest method is just add the two positive numbers, find how much they give, then add the absolute values of the two negative numbers and see what they give with a negative. Okay, let's see. So that's the first number. And I put the negative number, I just moved it to the second place. So in fact, I collected the negatives and the positives. So that two negative numbers now give negative 28.959. And then that is what the two positive numbers give. Okay, and then finally when you have a negative number, add it with a positive, remember to take the difference in their absolute values and put the sign of the greater number. So first you do 83.18 minus this, which is the difference in their absolute values, which will give 54.221. Then look at the two numbers. Oh, this number is greater, and its sign is positive. So the final answer is going to be positive. Okay, 19. So now we have, so this is a word problem where the temperature difference is given as the highest difference the highest temperature being 93 degree Fahrenheit and the lowest being negative 24 degree Fahrenheit, and you're asked to find the difference between the two temperatures. Okay, so in fact you're asked to find 93 minus 24. So minus times minus is what? Positive. So it's actually 117. And then you have another word problem where the balance amount in your bank is $41.23 and you make two purchases, one for $30.99, the other for $25.00, and then the bank charges an overdraft fee, which is actually like a purchase, so because you're losing money, which is $28.50, and then you pay the bank $67.91. And the question is, what is the final balance? All right, so you start with the balance. You make two purchases, and because those two purchases have gone over the balance, the bank charges you an overdraft fee, and then you pay this much, and you're asked to find what the balance is in your account. So how do we do this? You add the two purchases, which is because they're considered to be negatives, because you're losing money, and you're also losing money here. 28.50. Okay, so you have three negative numbers and then you have two positive numbers. All right, so the new balance can be found out by adding the two positive numbers, which is 41.23 plus 67.91, and minus the two purchases and the overdraft. So you understand the purchases and overdraft are negative. And then you add these two, you get 109.14. You add the absolute values of these three and put it as negative. And then finally take the difference between these two, which will give you the answer as $24.65. So that's the new balance. Okay? 21. So here you given the profits and losses of a company represented as a bar chart, and you can see that it's for the years 2007 to 2010. So losses in these 3 years and a profit in 2010, and it's in thousands of dollars. So what is given as a negative 174 is actually negative 174,000. So the first question is, what was the total profit? What was the total profit or loss? It could be a profit or loss in the years 2007 to 2010. All right, so how do we do that? Well, you have the losses and the profit for each one of those years, so you got to add all of them together, which means you're adding three negative numbers and one positive number, right? Okay, so negative 174, negative 240, negative 195 plus 87, right? So first the three negatives give negative 609 and then plus 87. Now is where you take the difference in their absolute values and put the sign of the greater number, which is negative. That gives you negative 522, okay? So the B part says find the difference between profit or loss. It's obviously moving really slowly. Find the difference between profit or loss in 2010 and 2009. So it's only those 2 years. Okay, so it's 87 and negative 195. And we got to find the difference. The difference between them. So that's the difference between a positive number and a negative number. So that's 87 minus of minus 195. Negative times negative is what? Positive. So that becomes positive there. And then you just got to add. So the answer is 282. Done. All right, question number 22. So you have this table given, years, and then the toll booth revenues and road repair costs for each year. First question of part A is, what was the difference in 2000? What was the difference in 2000? Okay, so revenues 656 and road repair 445. So find the difference between those two. 656 minus 445, that's all. That gives 211. But remember, this is also in thousands. So 211,000 is the difference. Part B. Let's look at part B. So part B says, what was the difference in 2015? What was the difference in 2015? So here are the numbers. Difference in 2015. So you have a revenue that is smaller than the road repair costs. Okay. So 2034 minus 2553. Obviously, you find the difference in the absolute values and then put a negative because the bigger number has a negative sign. And you get negative 519,000. Negative 519,000 is the answer. Brings us to 23. Moving along nicely here. All right. So now we're moving into exponents. You know, how to evaluate exponents. So you're given exponential expressions which you have to evaluate. A, what is 8 square? So 8 raised to the power 2. What does that mean? That simply means 8 times 8. So 8 raised to 2 is 8 times 8, which is 64. B, minus 8 square. Got to be careful. It's minus 8 times 8. Okay, let me stop it right there. It's not minus 8 whole square. It's negative of 8 squared. Negative of 8 squared. So that's why the negative is outside and you have 8 times 8. So that's negative 64. But look at C. Now you have minus 8 whole square. So that means it's minus 8 times minus 8. Product of a negative and negative gives positive. That's why it's positive 64. All right, look at D. So you have the minus outside and then you have minus 8 times minus 8. This gives positive, but then you have a negative, so the final answer is negative. 24. 5 by 3 raised to 5. 5 by 3 whole raised to 5. In this case, you got to raise both the numbers to the power 5. So this is 5 by 3 times 5 by 3, 5 times. Or in other words, it's 5 raised to 5 by 3 raised to 5, okay? So multiply the numerator, you get 3125. The denominator gives 243. That's a simplified form, so I left it there. 25. minus 2 raised to 5. Okay, what does that mean? It's minus 2 multiplied by minus 2 like 5 times. But then the final answer, got to be careful, the final answer. So product of two negatives is a positive, and then with this will give a negative. And so negative times negative will give a positive, and then it'll give a negative. So remember, if it's an odd number, if it's raised to an odd number, if a negative number is raised to an odd number, the final answer is going to be negative. Okay, but if the negative number is raised to an even number, like 6, 8, then the final answer is going to be positive. So in this case, it's an odd number, so you're going to end up with a negative, and that will be negative 32. 26. Square root of 25 by 36. So that means you have to take the square root of 25 and divide it by the square root of 36. So I'm splitting it. I'm writing it as square root of 25 divided by square root of 36, which is 5 by 6. 27. So 2 times, so I'm trying to make it clear that that's a product. 2 times 6 minus 3 divided by 1. So this is where you have to use the Pemdas rule. Parenthesis, exponential, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Follow the order of operations. Okay, so multiplication first. So 2 times 6 is 12. And then you have minus 3 divided by 1. So after multiplication comes division. So 3 divided by 1 is 3. 12 minus 3 is 9. So I followed the order of operations. You have a few more examples on that. Here's one. Minus 6 times 9 squared minus 3 times minus 4. So really got to be careful here. First, what you got to do is do the exponent. So negative 6, 9 squared is 81 because it's 9 times 9. And then do the multiplication. So the order is exponent multiplication, right? So I did both in one step. Did the exponent and I did the multiplication. Negative times negative is positive 12, but there's that negative outside. Next, I'm going to multiply these two numbers. Negative times positive is a negative. So you're going to get negative 486 minus 12. Now, both are negative, so add them and put the negative sign. So you get minus 498. 29. So minus 8 times square root of 64 minus 7 times minus 3. Okay, so you have two products. You have a product here, you have a product here. But before that, isn't this an exponent? It is. Because when you say square root of 64, it's actually 64 raised to half. Square root of, so you got to take the square root first because it's an exponent. So you get 8 there. Okay, so that will be the first step, minus 8. And then that's 8. And then take the product of these two. So two negative numbers will give a positive. And then next, take the product of these two. Negative times positive is negative, so that's negative 64. And then you have minus 21. Now add the absolute values and put a negative. So that's negative 85, bringing us to number 30. 12 plus 3 by 7 times minus 28 minus 4 by 9 times 27. All right. Do you see two products here? There's one product here, multiplication. There's another multiplication here, isn't it? Okay, so 12. And then 28 times 3. Actually, negative 28 times 3 is negative 24 by 7. And then the other product, negative 108 when you do these two. And then I just divided 84 by 7. I got 12. This is also 12. And then you got to be careful because you have two negative numbers. They add up to negative 24, and then there is 12. And 12 minus 24 is minus 12. Now, although I'm going fast, I know you have the ability to stop, pause, and think and do each step. So that's why I'm going a little fast, okay? Oh, there is 31. It's 1 plus square root of 4 times minus 7 squared by minus 1 minus 1. It looks very complicated, but really just follow the procedure. Square root of 4 is 2. Here you have positive 49. So I got minus 4 plus 2 by times minus 49 minus 2. So how did I get that? So minus 4. So here minus 7 squared is minus 49. This is 2. I don't know where I got this negative 4 from. Let me check. Maybe. So that's minus 2. Oh, I know what it did. This question was given as 4, but I wrote it as 1. That's why, sorry. So it's actually a 4 here. In fact, it's a minus 4. So that was the mistake. So minus 4. So now it's clear. It's a square root of 4 is 2. And then this is, remember, minus 7, not whole squared. So the negative will be there. It's negative 49. And after that, it's easy. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. Then you have negative 49 and negative 2, which comes up to negative 49. So number 32. This is a bigger question. 4 minus 4 minus 8 minus 6 divided by minus 7 minus 14 by the denominator. You have a bunch of numbers and this is a product, okay? It's even tough to read this question, but you can see. So what do we have to do first? Let me show you the steps here. So the first one is 4 and then you have minus 4. Okay, minus 14 by minus 7. Minus 8 minus 6 is minus 14. That's how I got that. And then you have minus 7 there divided by, so minus 14. In the denominator, excuse me. So in the denominator, I did the multiplication. 7 times 8 is 56. That's the second thing there. Next step. Minus 14 by minus 7 is positive 2. Because negative by negative is positive. So, positive 2. Then in the denominator, I get 1. Because you have minus 55 plus 56. So that gives you 1. Okay, so the next step is going to be multiply these two. That's going to give negative 8, right? So 4 minus 8 minus 14 by 1. And then these two are negative, so that'll be negative 22 plus 4. Negative 22 plus 4 is negative 18. So the answer is negative 18. And 33 is minus 20 parenthesis p minus q. So here you have to use the distributive law where you multiply the number outside with each one of them. So that'll be negative 20p plus 20q. Why plus? Because it's minus times minus is positive. Brings us to 34. Okay. So minus 7j minus 2x. A negative here simply means a negative 1. And so you got to distribute it. So this negative multiplied with a negative will make this positive. This negative multiplied with this negative will also make that a positive. So both the signs will change and you will get positive 7j plus 2x. Bringing us to the last question in this video, 35. It's 49 times 94 plus 49 times 6. Well, you can do it directly, but the question says we got to combine it, trying to show the distributive law. So you see the 49 is common. So take out 49 common and then 94 plus 6 inside the parenthesis. So then add 94 plus 6 is 100. 100 times 49 is 4,900. So that brings us to the end of this video. Again, I know I've been going a little fast. And instead of putting all of these numbers into the calculator, please try to understand how they've been worked out. Look at the rules that have been applied, and try to understand. And hope this has been good for you. Post a comment, share the video, give a few likes. That's how you can get it to more people. And we'll see you on video number 2 for homework number 2. Thank you. Cut.